Since all humans have a level of psychic ability, everyone has the chance to see a ghost or to deal with a ghost.
People who experience organ transplants have been known to record taking on behaviors of the individual that they received the organ from. Cellular memory is, for this particular film, it's sort of what makes the plot in itself possible.
If someone was a vegetarian their whole life, after the transplant, all they want to do is eat meat.
When we transplant an organ as the size and the significance of a heart from a donor to a recipient, that in fact these memories can be transferred as well.
And a few years ago, this little girl helped the police solve the murder of the person she got her heart from. She kept having visions of the crime.
There have been cases where they've begun to appreciate types of music that they'd never appreciate before. One case of classical music, but another case of hip-hop, for instance, an older person.
Another one was, someone was a health freak, a health nut their whole life. And all of a sudden after their surgery, they picked up smoking down to the same brand of cigarettes as their donor.
The first people to really alert us to the possibility of cellular memory were massage therapists. They'd be doing a massage and they hit a certain muscle or a certain point, and the person spontaneously recalls a memory, often a long-buried memory, of some emotionally traumatic event. Dr. Paul Pearsall, in one of his books, talks about a young man who died, was a heart donor for a young woman. And about a year after this, his parents were going through his effects and discovered some audio tapes that he'd made. And one of those tapes was called "Danny, I'm Giving You My Heart." The young woman who received the heart was called Danielle. And when the parents of the young man who died played Danielle some of Danny's songs, she could finish the phrases without ever hearing the music.
The smallest part of us can store everything. And this isn't so strange, because if we look at our DNA, we've got all that information, and it opens up this hugely amazing concept that, as far as our information systems are concerned, that we live in a holographic universe of which all the information is stored in the smallest part. This is the mind-boggling change of awareness that's happening at the moment. To understand that science now, we have to take your journey into your inner self.
My brain is having to relearn how to decode the world around me, but that's very different from me seeing things that don't seem to be real.
The idea of, in sort of an indirect way, possession does play in. Sydney, especially the character who donated the corneas to her, had a very unique life in that she had the ability to basically perceive what I guess would be termed the other side.
A spirit or a ghost is really an individual's life force or energy form that separates from the physical body after death.
The science of the last 80 years tells us that, in fact, at our very basic level within the body, we are energy and we are space.
There's a critical difference to not think of consciousness as being in the brain or an artifact of complex brains, but in fact a field effect, which is not just our own personal electrical field, but is part of a much larger field as well.
For a spirit to remain behind, or earthbound as we say, they are here in our earthbound plane with us. They can move objects at times, they might touch people, you might hear someone speaking to you or hear your name. They are trying to communicate, usually telepathically.
What we're talking about is an entanglement that doesn't just occur between atoms, but between people.
Obviously, there are certain physical things happen when you transplant organs that I suppose can baffle you.
I believe in the afterlife. I believe in the energy in different frequencies that people are, There's some people that they feel energy and they see things.
The people who tend to be very sensitive are the creative people. It's almost as if they have a very open system to the world. So over the years, I've been using these energy techniques on these very sensitive people. And generally, these people are more open to the idea that we could be telepathic beings, quantum beings, that we can actually transfer information from between each other beyond time and space.
Everyone has a soul or a spirit, because without that, the physical body does not function. So when we are born, that spirit form steps into the physical body, we become one, and when we die, the physical body fades away, but that spiritual form or life force remains.
But we also have to understand that when we transfer an organ, the organ itself isn't going to stay static. It's actually going to, those cells that you've transferred have also got to in fact run their natural course, and other cells have got to take their place. The body is totally replacing its cells all the time, and yet our conditions, asthma, eczema, recurrent headaches, migraines or whatever, outlast this. So memory is stored within the body.
We have groups of chemicals called proteins in our body, and certain of these groups of chemicals actually condition the expression of our genes. When we're traumatized, that's when the body is really activated, because we then are into the fight or flight mode. We have this adrenaline response, we have this cortisol response, and we have the response. Somewhere in our body, we're recording that level of hormonal difference.
And if in fact this is the case, that our physical structure is formed on our energetic structure, if in fact we can approach medicine by looking at our energy first, then we may be able to nip things in the bud before they get manifest in the body.
You know, the paranormal is now the new religion, basically. And the reason is because people are no longer okay with being forced into learning or being told this is the way it is, and you have to learn it this way, and you have to accept it no matter what. People are more intelligent today than they were 2,000 years ago. They want answers.
I think he's amazing. It is pretty fascinating, and doing a film about that, it brings more attention.
Because they're stories, you can't really research them in the same way you do regular double-blind randomized clinical trials. There are skeptics, and there should be skeptics, because any new research, any new therapy should be tested rigorously before it's put into widespread practice. All of these things are still research questions that aren't yet known, and we get these little pieces and little clues, and it takes us a while to integrate them into a big theory, and I don't think we're nearly at that point yet.